Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and in this video we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people are actually requesting for. You guys want to know my thoughts on Silverwolf and whether she's still worth it in version 1.1, 1.5, is she better than she was in 1.1? Is her stonks going up or stonks going down? We'll talk about all of this in this video as well. First things first, a lot of you who maybe are newer to the game and missed out on 1.1, her banner in the second half of version 1.1, why is she so good and why does everyone keep talking about her? What makes her very, very good in terms of utility is many things actually. The one that is most iconic, I guess, so let's start with that, is she drops in a weakness on the enemy. How this actually has improved since version 1.1 is now that there is actually a relic set that allows you to improve same type damage. Let's see whether I have any character that uses that. So for example here, you can see my Huo is using Panacony Land of Dreams, and it increases the damage of all allies of a same type by 10%. What this actually does is, this new sets favor, in a sense, same class characters, where your characters are more or less playing in the same element. Silverwolves fit into this super nicely, because how her skill actually drops is you drop based on the team composition that you have. For example, if I had, like this, I have 4 quantum characters, my chance of dropping a quantum weakness on the enemy becomes 100% when I use her skill. If it's like 50-50, then of course it's much less, and etc, etc. Which kind of incentivizes you to run either dual comp teams where you have 2 elements or 1 element typing. So for example, in this case, in Huo's case, when I'm using like Panacony Land of Dreams, I can run a triple win with many Panacony Land of Dreams, and I use Silverwolf to just implant the weaknesses, and that's how you can like combo. So I think that this aspect of her, this allow changes skill, has definitely improved since 1.1 because of the new Panacony set. It allows a lot more favoring of same type damage as well. So that aside, she of course does damage reduction to the enemies, which is like a shredder of resistance, super strong. Other than like dropping weaknesses and shredding to a single target, she also does ultimate damage, which deals a lot of damage, a decent amount of damage at least, and also reduces enemy defense. So it's an absolute single target killer, this unit. So any Hun character, for example like Zealer, you play Topaz and Nambi to some extent, and other single target units all can appreciate her. She will be a really good boss shredder. One of the fastest team composition clears for the Memory of Chaos has her in it. Of course, it has Bronya as well, but definitely a very strong unit as well. I think for 1.5, she got slightly better in terms of her utility for mono teams. So if any of you who are looking to pick her up, as well as Huo or Argenti, it does look like Silverwolf is a pretty attractive option compared to the rest, but we will compare about them in like investment value in a little bit too. But that's my initial thoughts of her overall style. And if you ask me, out of all the characters in the game, the only one that is really able to be a pseudo proxy to Silverwolf is of course Pella, which is like probably the only 2 defense shredders in the game if you don't count, for example, Resolution, Shines as Pearls, or Sweat. So definitely hard to come by defense shredding. Her ultimate is an AoE defense shred, which is it's definitely good, but I think it's much less than, for example, hers, which is like 40.5% at level 6. This one, Pella, as you can see here, is like level 9 with only 38%. So although the defense shredding is not as much, it's an AoE for what it's worth. Where I think she really outperforms is in ice teams, because if we look at her Eidolon 4 here, it shreds enemies' ice resistance by 12%, making her excellent in a team composition for like ice composition teams. She's able to run, for example, the Panacony Land of Dreams to boost damage. But of course, that being said, she also shreds resistances with this ability, just that you still have a chance of proccing a quantum weakness break into the enemy. So in this case, like Pella is more consistent. You definitely will be able to shred ice resistance if you use her skill too. And she also removes buffs from the enemy, which is interesting and nice to have, other than some AoE damage too. So, but other than that, both of them are really strong units, Pella as well as Silverwolf. Although they are kinda can be replaced, I just want to mention that they stack with each other as well. Defense breaking does stack very nicely, and she's still one of the fastest clears in the game. I think that is worth mentioning too. The only real downside I think that this character has, if some of you are wondering like where is the catch to this character, firstly, she's single target. So if we have like a lot of AoE monsters, especially in like a erudition meta, for example, who knows when that might be, maybe when he has his rerun Jingyuan, we might shift to more erudition meta. In that case, a character, for example, like Pella likely will outperform Silverwolf because she's more single target in nature. But for the most part, her relevance in the game is still quite strong, the ability to drop in weaknesses. Now that is the first downside when there's like a multiple enemy combo. The second downside, which I mentioned many times before, is that the more characters you have in your team and the more requirement for damage to come from multiple sources, the less Silver Wolf becomes valuable. She excels in team compositions where you only have, like, for example, you're a new player, you only have one type of DPS. So you need to drop in the element weakness into the enemy, you play with that one type of DPS all the time, you will clear content very easily. But when you slowly start going into the game, you have more and more characters, like in Baibater Lune, you have Jingliu, for example, I Blade, I have Zealer, and I'm looking for element weaknesses. I no longer need to rely on a character like Silver Wolf in order to prop the elemental weaknesses breaking, because I have enough stacking. But those are like for whales and like slightly more richer or long-term players rather. You will find that her value diminishes when you have every single element DPS in the game. But of course, if you only have like one, she's still super strong, and I don't think free-to-play players will reach this state until at least like 1 year or maybe 2 years, depending on how lucky we are too. That's the second downside. Now, I want to talk about a third downside, which I think only just came to my attention recently as well, based on some dreams that we have been having. One of the downsides to this character is if this elemental weakness is no longer relevant. If you take this elemental weakness dropping into her out of her kit, she basically becomes like a Pella that is single target in nature. She has some rest threat, she has a bit of out damage here that defense breaks the enemy, a little bit more damage too, able to drop like some minor weakness breaking here and there every time, so a little bit more debuffs, but by and large very similar to Pella. Now, why do I say removing this elemental weakness is because maybe in the future we might have characters that can hit all sorts of elements, like maybe they no longer care about weaknesses at all, like for example, we have a quantum character like Zealer, maybe a destruction character for example, that is able to hit a colorless damage, which means that you don't care what weakness the enemy is, you break all of them equally as much. In that case, I think the ability to drop in weaknesses diminishes very significantly, and is very important to point out as well. And I do think that we will have such a character very near in the future, or maybe sometime beyond, and more characters like that are likely to come out, especially if the first one that is coming out with a colorless break is going to be a 4-star. We'll definitely see it in a 5-star later on once Hoyoverse gets the data of the statistics and how many people like these kind of colorless breaking. So that 3 things I think are the main issues for this character, but overall I think she's an amazing character so far, and I just want to give you like a balanced opinion so far of what is the good, what is the bad, so we can make our options better known when we make our buying decision too. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is Eidolons. Some of you maybe who have first copy, you heard that and you want to know like where she stands now. That is like my broad opinions. Any of you who already have her and are looking to go beyond, let me just talk briefly about the Eidolons. TLDR 4, 6, 3, basically 3 all the way to 6 turns her more into a DPS. 4 here, for example, increases the damage a little bit. 6 also increases the damage by quite significant amounts. 3 and 5 are just like talent multiplier increases. You either shred more, deal a little bit more multiplier damage. The one that I think is like increasing her utility will be Zombie Network here too, where you reduce the enemy effect rest by 20%. One is good for her own self, as it allows her to proc energy based on the amount of debuffs the enemy has. It helps her rotation a lot. You can start building her for attack percentage and don't have to rely for energy restoration. But of course, you run energy restoration, you can get a very nice uptime on her burst, because this effect can be triggered up to 5 times in each use of ultimate. That is like 35 energy maximum every time you use her out, which is a very decent amount of refund. As you can see over here, that is a pretty substantial refund that she gets from her E1. So I think her E1 is like probably the best. E2 is when you can consider maybe you want it, maybe you don't want. For me, I skipped it. It's more of a utility thing, and currently in the game the enemy don't have super high effect rest, so I felt that maybe I can always just pull it on a later date, another rerun. Now that the rerun is coming, I still don't think I'll need this, so I likely won't be getting it too. So that is like basically for the Eidolons, or any of you who are really loving this character and planning to get her. That's my thoughts. The last one, of course, is gonna be the Light Cone. As some of you have noticed that I don't use the Light Cone because Nihility has such good other alternatives. For example, I really like this Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat. It allows you to stack like the amount of debuff on the enemy in terms of the defense breaking, because when she does, she has already like the chance of dropping a bit of additional defense shred. This just stacks on the talent passive plus the ultimate, so you get 3 different defense debuffs in one. Really insane. If you have it as super in position 5, you get a 100% chance, base chance to ensnare the enemy, which drops 16%. This stacks with everything, and that's why I think like it's already so good as a 4-star Light Cone. And 4 stars generally we will eventually get them, hopefully, fingers crossed for most accounts too. Incessant Rain is her Light Cone. I think that this is an interesting Light Cone. I don't think it's like super overpowered, but increases effect hit rate by 24%. You could get this from relics in terms of like switching your 4Ps around if you sacrifice a bit on damage. But sure, nice to have a bit more effect hit rate for a debuffing focus unit as well. And you can also change your body to a more effect hit rate body. If you sacrifice a bit of damage, you make her specifically a debuffer. So I think this is like, if you want to turn her into a DPS, this additional stat is nice, of course, together with like the 5-star stats on this light cone. When the wearer deals damage to an enemy that has 3 or more debuffs, you increase the crit rate by 12%. So it's really, if you like this character, you are going for her Eidolon 6 and you really want to do a lot of damage, then I think Incessantly is very good. It's definitely more of like a DPS Silver Wolf kind of cone. Not as versatile as well, because effect hit rate can't be really used by a lot of DPS characters that care about crit. Like Kafka doesn't need this crit rate that much if you're not running her for a crit build and stuff like that. You're probably more going to be focused more on attack percentage, and her signature light cone might be better, just speaking off the top of my head. After you cast basic skill or ultimate, there's a 100% chance to implant this additional Aether Code. I think out of all of them, this is the thing that is attractive because it gives you a debuff that has increased damage of 12%. In a sense, it's kind of similar to the Resolution Shines of Pearls of Sweat 12% defense break. Of course, damage amplification is different from defense break. But then again, if you like that part, you might as well go for this. It's going to be a lot cheaper. You save yourself like hundreds of dollars to get like the Resolution Shines of Pearls of Sweat equivalent. So yeah, that is my honest opinion so far of this character. If you want to build her for DPS, of course you can go for Good Night Sleep Well. She is able to stack very nicely these 3 debuffs to increase the damage by a significant amount, like 36% at Super Imposition 1. So that, and I think the light cone aspect, she's quite settled already. Those are my honest thoughts now. Let me know what you guys think. Are you pulling for this character? You skipping? You already have her? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. If you appreciate such honest, analytical content, like and subscribe for more future videos. And see you in the next video.